G'day folks, thanks for joining me. I'm Bohemian Bourgeoisie and today we will be discussing the 1965 seminal science fiction classic masterpiece, Frank Herbert's Dune. So before we get started, if you like what I'm doing here and you'd like to see more of it, it would help me out heaps if you could hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, and if you really want to go the extra mile, you could leave a comment and /or share the video with all your mates. Cheers. So, I suppose a bit of an introduction is in order as this is my very first video! So exciting! My name's James, but you can call me Bohemian Bourgeoisie. I'm a 34-year-old queer dude, he, him, living in Naarm, otherwise known as Melbourne in so-called Australia. I've got a lot of really exciting things planned for this channel. I am mostly going to be talking about pop culture, in particular things relating to science fiction, fantasy, and horror. These are the things which just feed my soul. On top of that, I anticipate delving into some cult classics and also just kind of generally looking into things which interest me and I think will interest you as well. I'd really like to use this opportunity to discover some things which I, up until now, have no exposure to or experience with, which I suppose brings us to this big bastard. I don't know how, but somehow, against all odds, I've made it to this point in my life, which, need I remind you, 34 in gay years is like over the hill. I'm past my life expectancy, really. I've made it to this late stage in my life without having experienced Dune at all. I've never read the book. I've never seen any of its adaptations. There's the David Lynch version. There's the I believe it's a sci-fi series, and of course there is the forthcoming movie, which is really what like kicked me up the arse to get this going. I wanted to read the book before I saw the movie, and I really thought that it might be a great way to kick off the channel was to do a reading vlog of it. So you're going to be with me every step of the way as I slog through what is apparently a masterpiece, a alchemical experience, a philosophical revelation. So I don't know, like, I could be dead wrong. It might not be like the best thing to do a reading vlog of. From what I understand, it is kind of difficult to wrap your head around. So I don't know, maybe it won't translate. We'll see. I'm gonna have fun with it regardless. Weirdly enough, bizarrely, I have seen Jodorowsky's Dune a bunch of times. Can I tell you, when I discovered this documentary, I was so obsessed with it. I frothed it so hard. I actually, after I saw it, I made a bunch of different friends of mine see it with me. I don't think that it actually spoiled the book for me at all, though. I'm sort of vaguely aware of some elements of the story, but from what I understand, Jodorowsky's vision was playing pretty fast and loose with the source material. So what little things I remember about his plan for the story, I don't even know if that is relevant. But perhaps as I go along, things will sort of like bubble up and I'll be like, oh, okay, hang on, yeah, this was in the doco, that was in the doco. I've seen the doco a bunch of times, like at least 5 times, I reckon, but it was all a few years ago and I was smoking a lot of weed at the time, so I actually don't remember it that sharply. It's a great doco though. If you haven't seen that, definitely go give that a watch. Maybe I'll cover the doco later. But yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's focus on Frankie H's version for now. So besides the odd thing here and there that I've sort of just like gleaned through osmosis over the years, I really don't have much of an understanding of the story. I think I know like the majority of the main characters by name. Like I know Paul Atreides, his mother Jessica, his father Duke Leto. I know Duncan Idaho, and the um, the like the bad guys, the gothic H.R. Geiger ones with no eyebrows. The fat guy that floats. Oh my god, it's like it's on the tip of my tongue. Oh, whatever. Not important. I know them. Or do I? Like, you know, I kind of I guess I know like vaguely their connections, their relationships with each other, but I don't actually know what the plot is. I'm assuming, like I know like the Atreides family are the main characters, and the evil Goths are the bad guys. So like I'm guessing that it's just sort of this feud or this war between these two aristocratic families, because I know that George R. R. Martin considers Dune as one of his major influences. You know, what is A Song of Ice and Fire if not a story about feuding aristocracy? Beyond that, I mean, I basically know what you might read on the blurb of the book. It's about the Atreides. They're coming to take over stewardship of Arrakis, also known as Dune. That Dune is the only place in the galaxy where they harvest spice, which is a big deal for like their economy, just in general. Well, also just like for their way of life. I don't really know exactly what spice is. I know that it's like a drug that that a bunch of people take because they don't have computers anymore. It's like it's sort of, would it be accurate to say it's techno medieval? Is that like the vibe of it? Like they don't have computers, but they have starships, but they still fight with swords and shit like that. It's about like, you know, nobles in palaces, and the women wear like long fucking skirts, and the men wear like, you know, like regalia and capes, but they have like shields, like energy shield, personal bubbles. It's just sort of like there's that weird blending of genre there, or at least certainly blending of aesthetics. Like the evil Goths, were they the previous stewards of Dune? I'm assuming like that's like what the whole feud is about. Like they're pissy that the Atreides are coming in and taking Arrakis away from them, maybe, presumably, or is it something else? Are they just a pissy bunch in general? I don't know. Let's find out together, eh? Okay, I know about the sandworms, of course. Like everyone knows the sandworms. The sandworms, they're just sort of like the most basic. If no one knows, if someone knows nothing about Dune, then they know about the sandworms, right? Like that's sort of like the most iconic, enduring image of the story. Okay, so like there's the Bene Gesserits who are like, there's, you know, like glam queens who wear black and they've like really high foreheads. There's like axolotl people. The axolotl people drive the spaceships. Like, okay, so like I know that's they use spice to drive the spaceships. Like that's one of the things. I don't know. Like surely spice does more than that though, and I don't understand like how, like what exactly spice does that allows them to drive spaceships. And is it that the axolotls take spice to then drive, or do they just like chuck spice into the furnace of the spaceships, and that just like powers the engine. But no, it's a drug. Like it's a spice. You wouldn't just chuck it in a fucking furnace, would you? Oh, and it turns your eyes blue. I think. I know that they have blue eyes, or not everyone, but like a whole bunch of people have blue eyes. So I'm assuming it's because they're spice junkies. Oh, and of course there's the Fremen, who are the native indigenous culture to Dune. Like they're pissy about being colonized. That's a theme that I'm really interested to explore because, of course, I myself live on stolen land. My own ancestors were colonizers, and the indigenous people of my country are grossly marginalized and systemically oppressed. And I believe Frank Herbert's American, right? Yeah, okay. This just says he spent his early life in the Pacific Northwest of America. So let's just go ahead and say he's American. So yeah, if Frank Herbert's American, I would have to imagine that he was influenced writing the Fremen by the atrocities that were carried out against the Native Americans, which are not entirely dissimilar to the atrocities that were carried out against the Indigenous Australians, because colonizers apparently have one trick. So anyway, like, we don't have to get into that right now, but yeah, up top, I suppose I wanted to mention that is something which I'm really particularly interested to see represented in the story. Now, I know that despite never having read it, that this is one of the most influential books in modern science fiction and I guess fantasy as well to some degree. You know, I imagine that there will probably be things that I will come across which might seem old hat to me, just because I've seen them done to death a million times in like Star Wars already, you know? But I need to keep in mind, if such a thing happens, that of course this came first, and it was you know the seed that spawned Star Wars and Alien and The Fifth Element and you know a million other things. So watch this space. Anyway, I think I have covered everything I need to for this intro. This intro could probably, at this stage... Fuck, I've been filming for 25 minutes. Yeah, so this intro could, at this stage, be its own video. So I might just cut it off there, and I will get stuck into this, and I will get back to you when I'm a little ways in with my initial thoughts. Okay, so it's the first chapter in, and it's the scene that was in the trailer between Paul and the Reverend Mother. I was not expecting this to be the opening scene of the book. I don't know why I was expecting anything. Like, I really should just, like, throw away my expectations, because, honestly, I don't know shit. But, yeah, like, okay, that was the opening scene. Great. It was a good opener. It is interesting, though, to me that, I mean, I'm assuming that the Reverend Mother isn't like a big character. I don't think that we're like really going to see much of her after this chapter. I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that she's kind of just like a one and done cameo. So then it is bizarre to me that, like, you know, the opening scene is a conversation between the main character and a character who is actually not a main character. You know, like we're kind of getting introduced to her before we're really properly introduced to the Lady Jessica or Duke Leto or any of the other people who I like know go on to be bigger characters. But I don't know, like maybe I'm talking shit. Who knows? She might just come along for the ride and be in every scene. So get rid of those expectations. Okay, so yeah, we meet Lady Jessica as well, and she is a Bene Gesserit. For some reason, once again, these stupid fucking expectations that I have, I was under the impression that she was like she was no longer a Bene Gesserit. Like I thought that she'd been excommunicated or that she'd kind of left that behind her. It was in her past. Like I don't know where I got this impression from, because clearly she is still drinking the Bene Gesserit Kool-Aid. Maybe that's something that comes up later. Like maybe this is one of those spoilers that I don't know that I know. I guess we'll see. The Reverend Mother, she is administering this fucked up pain test to Paul, who seems to be like this quote unquote chosen one. Which, of course, like nowadays, the chosen one trope, it's become so done to death. It's like pretty naff at this point. So I need to give the book certain allowances, because, well, like of course, like the chosen one it's a tale as old as time, but I guess perhaps it hadn't in the 60s, at least, I guess it hadn't kind of like reached that point of market saturation where it's now it's just sort of like a cardinal sin in writing. They're just like, do not do chosen one stories. We're sick of those. I will say, like, I really enjoy his writing style, but I'm getting a little bit of whiplash the way that he just like switches perspectives at the speed of light. Like in one paragraph we go from Paul's inner monologue and then into the Reverend Mother's inner monologue and then into Lady Jessica's inner monologue. I guess like maybe it's just because I've been reading so much A Song of Ice and Fire lately that I'm kind of conditioned to being used to just staying within one character's POV for an entire chapter. I guess that's just not Frank Herbert's MO, so whatever. I guess I can allow it. Frank, keep it up, mate. You're doing a ripper job by all accounts. We do establish that the Atreides are going to Arrakis, and the Harkonnens, which is the name that I couldn't remember before, the Harkonnens used to have stewardship of it. So that's what I think the story is building towards, is this war brewing between these two noble, or this war which no doubt is about to break out between these two noble families. I will say the Atreides are getting fucking shafted though, picking up their life and being sent to this desert planet, because from what I can tell of this first chapter, Caladan, where they're from, seems lovely. Like, it's mentioned it's very green, we get twisty, windy rivers, and this just sounds much more pleasant to me personally than some fucking harsh, inhospitable desert. But then again, I am the whitest human being alive and I would just burn to a crisp, so perhaps I'm just a little bit biased in that regards. It does seem though that like it will give them a huge bump in status because of course I know that Arrakis is pretty much just a gold mine. So I guess I could live in the desert. I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to fucking live in the desert for the rest of my life, even if it meant that I was rich, because you're still just living on some backwater. It's like you can't spend that money on anything good. But what's the point in being a multi-billionaire if you can't be like in the tropics? I don't know, like do they go on holiday in this like future world, or are they just like, you know, do they like get to ever leave Arrakis and, you know, go to some lovely tropical like beach planet, or is this just their lot in life forever? They're rich, but they're just like stuck in this horrible place. That's the impression I'm getting, that they just have to stay there forever now, or at least for a few generations until someone else gets stewardship. Is that what happens? Like, does stewardship just sort of like roll over every now and then so everyone gets to share in it? Okay, I don't know if I have any other impressions. So, oh fuck, yes, wait, of course I do. So, the Bene Gesserit, they're just straight up performing eugenics, right? And surely Frank Herbert is not saying that that's a good thing, right? Because the Reverend Mother straight up is just like, yeah, a bunch of Bene Gesserit don't know who their family is. Jessica doesn't even know who her family is, because maybe Maybe we wanted to marry her off to her brother so that we could do eugenic-y things with the bloodline and make sure that certain traits are passed down generation to generation. Like, I don't know, I'm sure Frank has lots to say on the subject. He couldn't be possibly saying that it's a good thing, because it's not a good thing. So I would be startled if the case turned out to be that Frank Herbert was just like, yes, eugenics is the way. Wave of the future. God. Yeah, okay, I think we can leave it there. Yeah, we've got enough, I think, to chew on for now. This is fun. I'm enjoying this. Alright, so chapter 2 has us introduced to the Harkonnens, which I was surprised that we got introduced to them so quickly. I don't know why, but I thought, like, I don't know, I was just expecting to meet them maybe like halfway through. I thought that they might just be kind of like shadowy and veiled in secrecy, but no, we're just like getting right into them. It's weird to me actually that we haven't even met Duke Leto yet, but everyone's talking about him. But okay, so yeah, straight into meeting the Harkonnens. We've got the Duke Vladimir and his nephew, whose name I've forgotten. What was it again? Feyd-Rautha, and their mentat Piter. And I'm not really sure what a mentat is, but it seems kind of to be like their head of security. I guess the thing that really jumped out at me in this chapter is that everyone is just so sassy with each other. And that actually extends into the first chapter as well, where Paul was being like this massive sass queen with the Reverend Mother. And now in this chapter, all three of these characters are just like fully going for the jugular with each other. Like everyone just hates each other so far. So that's a really interesting dynamic. Piter is not subservient at all to the Duke, even though the Duke is paying all of his bills, and apparently also keeping him with a steady supply of spice. So yeah, we learn in this chapter that spice turns your eyes blue, like I suspected. And Piter is addicted to spice. So, but he, yeah, I don't know, it was really funny. Piter is just kind of just like, oh, what are you going to do, Duke? Kill me? And the Duke is just like, yeah, maybe I will. And Piter was just like, okay, cool, well, I dare you. And meanwhile, what is his name again? Feyd-Rautha? Is that it? The names are just not sticking in my head at the moment. Feyd-Rautha, yeah. Feyd-Rautha is just sitting back, surveying the carnage with a lot of internal sass and just a little bit of external sass, just being a bit of external sash, saying to his uncle, like, why the fuck have you brought me here? This isn't interesting to me. And the Duke is just like, shut your mouth, pay attention, you might learn something. And I certainly learned some stuff as well. So we've got hang on, I made some notes because I was finding it hard to follow. Right, so we find out that Dr. Yue, I'm guessing the Atreides personal physician, he is actually like in deep cover. And I don't know if he's like, is he like a sleeper agent? They talked about his imperial conditioning, they managed to like find a way to override that. But yeah, and at any rate, he seems to be spying on them. So maybe not so much a sleeper agent as he's just, yeah, like undercover, but he's spying on them and informing on them. And the plan is for when the Atreides arrive at Arrakis, there's going to be an attempt on Paul's life, and they talked about they want to kill Duke Leto and extinguish his line. So that would follow that eventually they want to kill Paul as well. But when they're talking about the attempt on Paul's life when they first arrived, they kind of seemed on the fence about whether or not they actually wanted that to succeed, because the Duke said some questionable things about Paul's like young, supple body, which weirded me out a little bit. So, you know, we're getting like very strong villain vibes from, oh no, not from the Duke. Have I been calling him the Duke this whole time? The Baron. Baron Harkonnen. Baron Vladimir. I have been calling him Duke, haven't I? God damn it. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, he eventually wants Paul to die, but maybe not yet, because, I don't know, is he a pedophile and he wants to use him? Oh, that's gross. But certainly Duke Leto is to die, and they're throwing the suspicion off Dr. Yue by implicating Jessica, which is interesting. But Piter wants Jessica for himself. For what purpose? We don't know. Chapter 3, we have returned to Caladan, back with the Reverend Mother and Jessica. And the Reverend Mother is just chewing Jessica out. She, we learn, was only supposed to have born daughters for the Duke, or a daughter. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Jessica was not supposed to have born any sons for the Duke. She was meant to have born daughters only, because they wanted to use an Atreides daughter as a match for the Harkonnen heir, to just sort of like repair this feud. And you know, Jessica was just like, you know what, cool, noted. I'm just going to leave that message on read, and instead, maybe I might just casually have a prophecy baby real quick. How about that? Hashtag no regrets. So like, of course, as I'm learning, sass is just the name of the game in this book. It's fucking flying around the room like crazy. It's gonna put someone's eye out. Jessica just like fucking opens the library on the Reverend Mother, and Paul comes back in, and they start quizzing him about the dreams he's been having, these prescient dreams. And he reveals that he has been dreaming of Zendaya, and it turns out she is also a spice junkie. So of course, like, you know, Paul's just like sassing the Reverend Mother like crazy. Oh fuck, okay. I should mention this in the last vlog. She revealed that the Bene Gesserit are looking for the Kwisatz Haderach, which is I don't really understand what it is, but like the Bene Gesserit can sort of, so they take this truth sayer drug, which only women have successfully taken. Any men who have taken it in the past have died. But one day there will come a man who can take the truth sayer drug, and he'll be the Kwisatz Haderach, because when a truth sayer is gifted by the drug, she can look many places in her memory, in her body's memory. We look down so many avenues of the past, but only feminine avenues. Yet there's a place where no truth sayer can see. We are repelled by it, terrorized. It is a man will come one day and find in the gift of the drug his inward eye. He will look where we cannot, into both feminine and masculine pasts. I'm not sure. I'm sure that like we'll get more confirmation of this eventually. But anyway, so men in the past have attempted to become the Kwisatz Haderach, and they've all died in the attempt. And so she's just sort of like, I could give you a couple of hints, maybe, to, you know, let you know what they did wrong. And Paul's just like, all right, off you go then. She actually kind of like pays him a bit of a compliment. What was it that she said? Oh yeah. So she just says, "You've depths in you, that I'll grant." And he's just like, "Can I go now?" I get the feeling that he's lucky to fucking be getting out with his hide, because the Reverend Mother does not strike me as the sort of person who suffers insult lightly, but whatever. She's turning a blind eye on this occasion, because she's just like, I think she's impressed by his moxie, if nothing else. Okay, so the Reverend Mother, she's just like, I can give you a couple of hints, and he's just like, yep, cool, hint away. And she says to him, that which submits rules, which I get the impression that's going to be a recurring mantra. And then she turns to Jessica and she's just like, BT dubs, I know you've been breaking the rules, you've been training him as a Bene Gesserit, so like, honestly, I don't give a fuck. And while we're at it, your gut's deep in rule breaking, so let's just go the whole hog, and I want you to teach him the voice. And I don't know what that means. I mean, actually, well, I can guess probably what the voice is. I'm assuming it's like mind control in layman's terms. And then she goes up to Paul and she's just like, you know, she wishes him luck. She's just like, I hope against all odds, I actually hope that you survive. But if you don't, who gives a shit? Because we'll endure without you. she's a fucking stone cold. I love her. And then she just fucks off. Like, she, without saying goodbye to Jessica, she's kind of tacitly says goodbye to Paul, but she shares a look with Jessica, and in this like fleeting glance, Jessica sees tears in her eyes, and that just like shakes Jessica to her core. And I wonder if we'll see her again. I really hope we do. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't. Yeah, I don't know. I would love to see, well, any reason to have more Charlotte Rampling on my screen, I will take. Thank you very much. But B, like, she's a fucking BAMF. So yeah, more Reverend Mother. Just invite her along. I'm sure she'd like the desert. Oh, and they expect Duke Leto to die. They've just given him up for dead, which is like, we haven't even met Duke Leto yet. Everyone's talking about him, but we haven't met him, and he's just basically having his death prophesied, so it's not looking good for poor old Duke Leto, I'm afraid. We go into chapter 4. We meet Thufir Hawat, and he's an old man. I was not expecting that. But like, you know, like, good on him. He's still spry. He's got his wits about him. He gets pissy with Paul because he's sitting with his back to a door. He's just like, how many fucking times have I had to tell you, kids these days sit with their backs to a door? But honestly, like, I can relate though. If I'm like in a cafe or a restaurant or something and I can feel like people milling about around me, I hate that. I get so cagey and paranoid, and like, okay, so this is really random. I have this paranoia of, as long as I can remember, that one day someone's just going to come up behind me and just slash my throat. Which, don't ask me why, don't know where it comes from, but here we are. And so like, if I can feel, if I'm like, say I'm sitting on the train and there's like someone behind me who I've just decided I don't trust for whatever reason, I will sometimes just like sit like this, protecting my throat, and just in case like someone could just like pull a switchblade and just Catelyn Stark me, you know? So this plant wants to chill out. It's getting in my way. I love ya, Dot. So I'm calling this now. I reckon Paul's gonna fuck up in some way. He's gonna have his back to a door, and shit's gonna go down, and he won't be like prepared for it, because they mention it too many times in this one chapter. They just like really drive this point home that you know, Paul just always leaves his back to a door, and so yeah, that's not gonna work out for him one day. That's my prediction. We get We get some expo on Dune. It has really fucked up weather, and the Fremen wear these suits to recycle their own moisture. Which, like, I've seen pictures of them wearing these suits with like things that go into their nostrils, which I'm assuming that's what that is. Like, that makes sense. Like it would just, like, the suit collects your moisture and then like pumps the water like in your nose and back down your throat again. Yum. And okay, so they mention that House Atreides is not like a big or wealthy house, which actually that really surprised me. I had assumed that they were a really big deal, but I guess probably just because of the way that like Paul kind of carried on when he met the Reverend Mother. He was just giving like very big trust fund baby vibes, where he was just like, "Excuse me, do you know who I am?" But okay, I guess not. I guess they're just minor nobility. Then Hawat fucks off, and in comes Gurney Halleck. Gurney's really ugly, but it's okay because Paul loves him anyway. Despite loving him, however, Paul is typical a little fucking sass queen. And thank God someone finally calls him out on it. Halleck fully says, and I quote, "So it's sass for our elders today." And Halleck gives him a really good life lesson where they spar together, and Paul's just like, "I'm not in the mood. I'm, not right now. Can't be fucked with this." And Halleck is just like, "Well, you're probably not going to be in the mood when it's a life or death situation, but you're going to have to perform anyway." And he really puts the fear in God in him. He's going for the jugular in this sparring session. And for a moment, Paul is like legitimately fighting for his life. And he's wondering like, "Oh, fuck, is Halleck a traitor? Like, is today the day I die?" But no, it's chill. Halleck's just giving him some tough love. So good on you, Gurney. So into chapter 5, we meet the traitor, Dr. Yue. It seems that we're going to be meeting every single one of the castle staff before we get around to that unimportant member, Duke Leto. But anyway, Yue tells him that his dad's on the way to meet him. And Paul's stoked. He's like, "Great, I haven't seen my dad in ages. And you know what, Paul? I haven't seen your dad at all, so count your fucking blessings. Where is Duke Leto?" So, okay, we know for sure Yue is not a sleeper agent. He keeps thinking about how he's going to betray them. He's fully cognizant of the fact that he's a traitor. The Harkonnens are leveraging his dead wife against him. I'm not really sure like what's going on there. Like, is his wife actually dead? Or like, I'm sure plot progression, developments, all of that. I'm along for the ride. Don't worry about it. To Yue's credit, he seems to be fairly conflicted about this. So he's not like a complete fuckwit, but he's still a traitor. He's going through with it. Okay, what is so special about this imperial conditioning? That's what I don't get. If it's so easy to break someone just by blackmailing them or extorting them, extortion is blackmail, isn't it? Yeah, like is Wanner really dead? We've been over this. Okay. So he gives Paul a tiny little orange Catholic Bible, and he asks Paul to read the passage that he's bookmarked for him. And Paul notices that there are actually two bookmarks. So he just presses the first one and starts reading the first thing that comes up, and it was Wanner's favorite passage, which just like it fucking knocks Yue for 6. The blood drains from his face because, of course, like not only is it her favorite passage, but it kind of describes the situation that the Atreides are in at the moment. So yeah, like Yue's just like, what the fuck is this like synchronicity going on here? And then like Paul's just like, "Oh, okay, sorry, like I just did what you asked. Was that not correct?" Anyway, realizes, oh, okay, no, there was a second bookmark which I just didn't realize was there, or there was a first bookmark, I should say, that I didn't realize was there. But anyway, Paul has this premonition about the Bible in some way igniting his purpose. So no doubt this is not the last that we've seen of the Bible. I'm sure it will come up again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Okay, huge. So finally we've met Duke Leto, and he's brought with him a fuck ton of exposition. So Leto knows that they're heading into a trap, but he explains to Paul that it is actually safer in the long run for them to take the bait than it would be not to. Which, like, yeah, there's sound reasoning there, because at least they know if they take the bait, they know the perimeters of the trap. If they don't take the bait, who knows when the next trap might set off, you know? He also knows that the Emperor is in on the plot, which was kind of implied as well. I remember back in the second chapter with the Harkonnens, the Emperor is going to be sending his own Imperial Corps, the Sadorka, I think is how it's pronounced. I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of these things correctly, but I'm just going with what feels right for me. So yeah, the Emperor is supplying his own Imperial Corps, the Sadorka, disguised in Harkonnen livery. And the Sadorka, they are apparently bred on this really fucked up prison planet. So Duke Leto is just like, well, who better to fight the Sadorka than the Freemen, who are also from a fucked up planet. We also learn a little bit more about the CHOAM company, which stands for, what does it stand for? It stands for Combine Onit Ober Advancer Mercantiles, which is mostly gibberish to me. But they seem to be a little bit like Weyland-Yutani. Or I guess Weyland-Yutani is a little bit like them, just in the sense that they have their fingers in a lot of pies. And then lastly, the Duke says to Paul, BT dubs, we've been training you as a mentat since infancy. And Paul is just like, actually, that explains a lot. But all in all, he's actually pretty chill about it. So go him, I guess. Still not 100% sure on what a mentat is. I went back and reread the second chapter again, because I felt like I missed out a lot of it on the first read through, and I'm not sure. I feel like mentat, they're similar to the Bene Gesserit and the Spacing Guild, in that they use spice to kind of to perform like a stand-in function for computers. I'm not entirely sure what that function is at the moment. Like, are they sort of just like trained master assassins, or is there definitely seems to be more to it than just that, but they seem very analytical. Chapter 7, and we're just on Dune now, I guess. We just completely skipped out the entire voyage there, which I was a little bit disappointed about. I was hoping that we would get to meet someone from the Spacing Guild. I know that they are the axolotl people, so I guess that was a spoiler. How big of a spoiler? I don't know. I guess we'll find out when we get to it. But for some reason as well, I was under the impression, before I started reading this, I thought that Paul had been born on the journey to Dune. Like, that he had been born on this spaceship, and interstellar travel just like took, years and years and years to go from one place to another. And so he had grown up up and growing up into like a young adult on board a spaceship, and then would be landing on Dune. And like touching ground for the first time, basically. And I don't know, I have no idea why I had that idea, but apparently that was completely incorrect, because it seems that interstellar travel just goes by lickety-split and we don't even need to chronicle the passing. So Jessica unpacks a portrait of her father-in-law and a taxidermy bullhead. And she starts to wonder about the symbolism of this, which naturally leads me to wonder about the symbolism of it. It's really interesting having characters who actually think in terms of literary analysis. So basically Jessica is doing my job for me. She's pointing out all of the things that I need to pay attention to, which I really appreciate. Thank you for that, Jessica, because I do feel like I'm already missing a lot of shit as I'm going. We find out a little bit later that the Duke had been a matador, and that this taxidermy bull was the one that did him in, and he still has the Duke's blood congealed on his horns, which is pretty fucking metal. And it also explains why Jessica doesn't want them in the dining hall. I probably wouldn't either. I don't know why the Duke does. Once again, it's brought up Jessica's heritage and how uncertain it is. And there was that throwaway comment by the Reverend mother at the start saying like, well, maybe Jessica was married to a close family member. So is that why Jessica has such an issue with the Duke's portrait in the dining hall? Like, does she on some level know that she is related to Duke Leto, and it grosses her out seeing her own father maybe while she's having dinner? I don't know. Maybe I'm probably reading too much into that. Anyway, yeah, we also get Duke and I'm just going to keep calling him Duke, I think. We get Duke and Jessica's first interaction on page. And oh my goodness, there is a lot to unpack there. Just based off the first impression that we get. So first of all, Duke Leto bought Jessica. So she's pretty much a slave, or at least she started off that way. And she certainly doesn't seem to now. She seems to have like a lot of genuine sway. I don't know. For some reason, I thought that she was like assigned to the Duke by the Bene Gesserit, but now it seems that Duke Leto just straight up purchased her, which is weird. I have no idea how the Bene Gesserit work whatsoever. I'm very confused about that, but I'm intrigued. I want to learn more. Also, they're actually not married, which I probably should have caught that at the beginning, because she was referred to as like his concubine. So yeah, I should have tweaked, but yeah, that actually surprised me that they're not married. But it was then weird that the Duke is just like, well, probably for the best, because you get more me time this way. And Jessica was just like, yep, cheers, thanks, babes. Then we get to meet the shout-out Mappus, and once again, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but I'm just going to go with this because it sounds best coming out of my mouth, I think. So immediately, Jessica is just like, look, you old bitch, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because I know that you are packing heat. Mappus is just like, nah, babes, please chill out. The knife is actually for you. Turns out Jessica is also a prophecy baby. So we've got Jessica and Paul both being prophecy babies. So I guess it just runs in the family. And the knife that she gives her is it a tooth from a sandworm? She referred to it as a tooth from something. So interesting weapon she's got there. Anyway, Jessica leaves and Mappus is just like, oh, the poor bitch. So things aren't looking good for Jessica because she has had her doom prophesized by not one, but two wise old women, and we are barely 50 pages in. Are you right? Right. Ooh, I'm not mad at that. It's a nice ambient glow, but no, I think we'll stay lit for this one. Jesus. Action. Alrighty, so we're on to chapter 8. Jessica meets with Yue and he's being cagey as fuck. He like deliberately embarrasses himself to sort of throw the scent off. And for the most part, he seems to be fairly successful. She's definitely like a little bit sus on him, but she waves it aside. She's just like, well, don't worry about it. Probably not that important. I already know from the chapter headers that Yue's treachery turns out to be a really big deal. So that one's on you, Jess. Oh, I just wanted to confirm that it was mentioned in this chapter that the Chris knife is the tooth from a sandworm. So pat yourself on the back for that one, James. So they talk about how there's 20 palm trees on the property of this house. Not the house, I guess it's a man's. There's 20 palm trees on the property and the locals are all really pissy about that because that essentially equates to the water of 100 people per day. And it's funny actually, right after reading this chapter earlier today, I went on my CoStar app and one of the things it told me not to do was palm fronds. So how's that for some weird synchronicity for you? It also told me to do stripes. So here we are. We learn a bunch of stuff in this chapter. One is or was Bene Gesserit as well. Fucking everyone's Bene Gesserit in this story. Yue himself doesn't seem to know whether she is actually alive or dead. And I'm wondering what is actually on the public record with Wana, because no one actually seems to realize that she's connected to the Harkonnens in any way. I don't know. I want to know, is Yue kind of implicating himself by even talking about her? Shouldn't they know something to do with how his wife died? That would be involved in a background check before he got the job, which didn't actually happen all that long ago. I think Jessica said it happened 6 years ago or 8 years ago, not that long. We also learn that Yue is, he's planning a double cross in his double cross. So he is going to, he mentions quite obliquely that he is going to strike at the Baron once the Baron thinks he has won. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I keep saying that. I keep saying, I guess we'll see how that works out. I guess we'll find out as the story develops. But I mean, yeah, James, that's how linear storytelling works. We find out things when they happen. Most of the chapters I'm noticing as well, most of the chapters so far have just been conversations, less emphasis on the action happening and more on just mostly two, sometimes three people just talking it out, and also the way that these characters kind of, that they, there's the dialogue between them, but also a lot of them thinking about the things that aren't being said, the things that they hold back themselves, and the things that they detect in each other. So Frank Herbert is really interested in human interactions and in examining the way that we consciously and unconsciously communicate with each other. Chapter 9 is a really short one. Paul is about to sneak out of his room and cause some mischief, as you would. And then the diversion that the Baron mentioned back in chapter 2 kicks off. So there's this hunter seeker which is hiding in the headboard of his bed, and it's giving me big Attack of the Clones vibes, like the drone that came to assassinate Padme. He gets lucky though, he freezes and the drone doesn't see him. And Mappers opens the door at that moment. So the drone goes for her, Paul manages to catch it and smash it, and Mappers is like, you know, she's like, in gratitude of it, she's just like, okay, like, I guess I owe you a life debt now. But she's a bit salty about it. She's just like, oh, fuck's sake, like, first day already, I'm like owing people life debts, Christ almighty. But anyway, she's just like, BT dubs, there's a traitor in your midst. And I want to know, like, how does she know this? Like, where is her intel coming from? I mean, I guess these wise old women have their ways, don't they? And then in chapter 10, Jessica finds what Mappers referred to as the weirding room. It turns out that it is this tropical greenhouse, and Mappers fucking hates this room, which, like, in fairness, I guess I understand. Also, in fairness to Jessica and the previous tenants, I also would probably want a greenhouse if I was living on a fucking desert planet, because it would get so depressing just looking out at sand dunes constantly. But yes, to a native Fremen, this is just a ridiculous indulgence on a desert planet. Jessica said it would be, they're wasting like 1,000 people's worth of water a day just on sustaining this greenhouse, which is wild. And we've already seen how Mappers relates everything back to water. Like, you know, her blood, she called her life's water, and the life debt that she owed to Paul, she referred to it as a water debt. Like, it's just, they've got water on the brain. Anyway, Jessica finds a note from the previous landlady, Margot Fenring, and this was a fun little aside. She notes that what was he? He wasn't was he a count? Yeah, I want to say he was a count. She notes that the count married this Bene Gesserit, and she's a little bit salty about that. She's just like, oh, fuck's sake, everyone's getting married except for me. Like, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Yeah, so she finds this note, and it's a hidden note on a tree leaf in Braille, and it basically was just like, there's going to be an assassination attempt against your son in his bedroom, and then there's also going to be an assassination attempt against your husband from a trusted lieutenant. And at that moment, Paul bursts in, he's got the drone that he smashed, chucks it in the fountain and like neutralizes it for good. Then one of Hawat's men comes in, they're just like, okay, we found the assassin, he was controlling the drone down in the cellar, but like, we fucked it up and he died during capture, so we can't question him. And then later on, Jessica she's looking out the window, and she can see these like flashing lights, and she realizes that these are the enemy communicating, because they can't use radio waves that'd be picked up, so they're just using a code which is unfamiliar to her, and just like G'day folks, this is James from the future, and it's apparently a very spooky future, for some reason. So, I'm now at the stage of having finished the entire book, and I'm editing the video together. My intention was to do the entire book in 3 separate videos, because the book itself is separated into 3 distinct parts. However, I did not realize quite how much shit I had spoken for quite so long. So, unfortunately, I was unable to edit the entire first part of the book down below an hour, which was mind-boggling to me. I thought part 1, book 1, would be half an hour, 45 minutes max, but no, myth busted. I've gotten to the point where I'm at now, and I just can't quite get the video below an hour without also feeling like I'm compromising on losing either essential information or, you know, character. And what are we watching it for if not for a little bit of my character, such as it is? So yeah, I'm just going to do part 1 of part 1, and we're just gonna cap it at an hour. I think that's more than reasonable. I hope a single one of you has made it this far. That would be awesome. So I'll be back next week with part 2 of part 1. And in the meantime, if you could like, subscribe, hit the bell, share, and comment, those would all be fucking awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really hope that you're enjoying this because I had a blast filming it, and I'm actually really having a blast editing it at the moment. So there's lots more great stuff to come. Once again, I'm your host, Bohemian Bourgeoisie, and this has been Frank Herbert's Dune, part 1 of part 1.